The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Kelthrin of the Vexari Dominion activated the holographic display. 12 species, representing the most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy, watched as coordinates materialized in the center of the room. The numbers meant nothing to most of them, but what appeared beneath those coordinates sent a ripple of discomfort through the assembled delegates. A single planet, blue and green, rotating slowly in the projection. A world teeming with water, continents sprawling beneath swirling clouds, and in the corner of the display, a designation that had been burned into the collective consciousness of every advanced species in the galaxy over the past 3 cycles, Priority Target 7. Gregory Parker sat in the observation lounge of the International Space Station, watching Earth rotate beneath him. He had been on the station for 4 months now, and the view never got old. From up here, the planet looked peaceful, serene. No borders, no conflicts, just a fragile blue marble floating in the void. His communications panel chimed. Standard check-in from Houston. Gregory floated over to the console and keyed in his response. Everything nominal. Another routine day in orbit, except it was not routine at all. 300 light-years away, Ambassador Kelthrin continued his presentation. The Vexari were insected in appearance, with 4 arms and compound eyes that gleamed with an unsettling intelligence. His translator rendered his clicking speech into the common galactic language. The world is called Earth. Our scout vessels have confirmed that the dominant species, humans, have only recently achieved spaceflight capability. Primitive chemical rockets. No understanding of quantum tunneling or gravitational manipulation. They have fragmented into hundreds of political entities and are engaged in constant low-level conflicts. Their technology level is approximately 0.7 on the Kardashev scale. In short, they are defenseless. The delegate from the Threxian Commonwealth, a reptilian species known for their military prowess, leaned forward. Their ships, non-existent beyond their immediate orbital space. They have a single permanent habitat in orbit of their world and a handful of automated probes exploring their local star system. They possess no faster-than-light capability and no weapons that could threaten even our oldest vessels. The Threxian delegate's scales rippled with what might have been satisfaction. This should be straightforward then. When do we begin the integration protocols? Ambassador Kelthrin gestured with one of his 4 arms and the hologram shifted. Data streams appeared, showing industrial output, energy consumption, population density. The numbers were staggering for a species so primitive. Here is where it becomes interesting. Despite their technological limitations, humans have demonstrated remarkable adaptability. Their industrial capacity is growing at an exponential rate. They split the atom less than a century ago in their time measurement. They achieved spaceflight in less than 2 generations after that. They have sent machines to explore every planet in their system. The delegate from the Quillari Collective, a species of crystalline beings, resonated a question through the chamber's acoustic translators. This is not unusual for emerging species approaching the singularity threshold. Why the concern? Kelthrin clicked his mandibles. Because of this. The hologram changed again, this time showing historical data, images of human conflicts, weapons development, strategic doctrine. The assembled delegates watched in growing unease as the display showed the progression of human warfare over the past century. The scale of destruction, the speed of innovation, the sheer brutality of it. They have fought 2 major planetary conflicts in the last 100 years. The second killed over 70 million of their own species. They developed nuclear weapons and immediately used them on populated centers. They have created automated delivery systems capable of destroying their entire biosphere 12 times over. They maintain this arsenal even now, decades after the primary conflicts ended. Silence filled the chamber. Even the Threxians, a warrior culture themselves, looked disturbed. The Quillari delegate resonated again. They turned these weapons on themselves, on their own world. Not only that, Kelthrin manipulated the hologram once more, bringing up more recent data. They have continued to develop weapons technology even as they expanded into space. Look at this. Chemical agents, biological weapons, kinetic bombardment systems, directed energy research. They have dozens of theoretical weapons that they have chosen not to deploy. Yet, a delegate from the Hysteria assembly, a species of aquatic beings, spoke through their water-filled containment suit. This is madness. No rational species would maintain such destructive capability while still confined to a single world. The risk of self-annihilation is too great, precisely, and yet they persist. Kelthrin's compound eyes swept across the assembled council, which brings us to the purpose of this briefing. Earth has been designated as Priority Target 7 for integration into the Dominion. The operation will proceed in 3 phases. First, observation. Second, contact. Third, subjugation. The Vexari Third Fleet will oversee the operation. The Threxian delegate's tail twitched. You anticipate resistance. It is a primitive species. Resistance is expected but will be minimal. Our shield technology alone will render their weapons ineffective. The subjugation should be complete within 1 standard cycle. Margaret Chen, the director of the Global Space Initiative, sat in an emergency meeting in Geneva. The holographic displays around the conference table showed similar images to those being discussed 300 light-years away, but from a very different perspective. We have confirmed the signals. She gestured to the data stream. 7 distinct artificial transmissions detected over the past 6 months. They are being careful, staying at the edge of our detection range, but the pattern is clear. We are being observed. Daniel Rodriguez, the United States Secretary of Defense, leaned back in his chair. The military analysts have reviewed the data. If these are survey probes, as you suggest, then we need to assume that whoever sent them is planning something. The question is what, and more importantly, when. A Russian military observer spoke up. We should accelerate the orbital defense platforms. Get the electromagnetic rail guns operational. At least then we would have something to shoot at them with. Margaret shook her head. The platforms are years away from completion. Even if we could accelerate the timeline, we have no idea what we would be up against. For all we know, our most advanced weapons might as well be throwing rocks. Then what do you propose? Daniel asked. We just sit here and wait to see if they are friendly. Margaret pulled up another display. I propose we send them a message. Let them know we are aware of their presence. Show them we are not completely ignorant. And say what exactly? The Russian observer looked skeptical. Please do not invade us, we are very nice. Margaret stared at the data, her mind racing. We tell them the truth. We tell them what we are. The message was crafted over the next 72 hours. Linguists, scientists, diplomats, and military strategists all contributed. The final product was elegant in its simplicity. A mathematical proof to demonstrate intelligence. Scientific data to show technological understanding. And then in carefully structured binary code, a simple message. We are humanity. We are aware of your observation. We are prepared. Attached to the message was something that Margaret had insisted on including over the objections of several diplomats. A data package containing human history, not sanitized, not edited. The complete record. The wars, the genocides, the nuclear weapons, the biological experiments. But also the art, the music, the philosophy, the scientific achievements. Everything. Daniel had questioned the wisdom of showing their worst to potential invaders. Margaret's response had been simple. If they are coming regardless, better they know what they are dealing with. Maybe it will make them think twice. And if they come anyway, at least they will not be able to say we did not warn them. The message was transmitted from 3 of Earth's most powerful radio telescopes, directed at the coordinates where the probe signals had originated. Then humanity waited. The response came faster than expected. 3 weeks after the transmission, the Vexari scout vessel on the edge of Earth's solar system detected the incoming message. The ship's artificial intelligence immediately flagged it as priority and routed it to the fleet commander, who then forwarded it directly to Ambassador Kelthrin. When Kelthrin opened the data package and began reviewing its contents, his mandibles locked in what any human would have recognized as shock. He went through the information 3 times, certain he must be misunderstanding something. Then he immediately convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The council chamber was in chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony that the translation system struggled to render coherent. Kelthrin stood at the center, the human message playing on repeat on the holographic display. They knew. The Quillari delegates' resonance was pitched high with alarm. They knew we were watching them. The Threxian delegate was studying the historical data with an expression that suggested deep unease. This cannot be accurate. No species could survive this level of self-inflicted violence. The numbers must be wrong. Kelthrin clicked his mandibles sharply, demanding attention. The numbers are not wrong. We have verified them against our own observations. Every piece of data in this package is accurate. Humans have been engaged in continuous warfare for their entire recorded history. They have developed increasingly efficient methods of killing each other, and somehow, they have continued to advance technologically and socially despite it. The Hyterian delegate's water suit rippled with agitation. This is unprecedented. The psychological profiles alone are disturbing. They form tribal attachments to abstract concepts. They will die for ideologies, for pieces of colored cloth, for invisible lines on their planet's surface. This is not rational behavior. Another delegate from a species that communicated primarily through bioluminescence flickered rapidly. We should abort the integration. Label them as unsuitable for incorporation into galactic society. Quarantine their system until they achieve maturity or destroy themselves. The Threxian delegate hissed. With respect, that is cowardice. We are speaking of a single planet with primitive technology. Yes, they are violent. Yes, they are aggressive, but we have faced violent species before. Our shield technology alone makes their weapons irrelevant. A species that cannot even achieve faster than light travel is no threat to the Dominion. Kelthrin held up one of his forearms. Please review Section 7 of the data package. The part about human innovation under pressure. The hologram shifted, showing a timeline. The progression of human flight technology, from the first powered aircraft to breaking the sound barrier, 44 years, from breaking the sound barrier to landing on their own moon, 20 years, from first satellite to permanent space station, 40 years, now consider this. Kelthrin pulled up another dataset, from the discovery of nuclear fission to the first deployed weapon, 3 years, from the first orbital satellite to the first human in space, 3 years. From the first computer to machines that can defeat their best strategic thinkers in complex games, 50 years. The Quillari delegate resonated slowly, thoughtfully. They accelerate when challenged. Exactly. Kelthrin clicked his mandibles. Now consider what happens when we present them with the ultimate challenge. An existential threat from an advanced alien civilization. How fast will they innovate then? The chamber fell silent. Each delegate was clearly running through scenarios in their minds. The Threxian delegate spoke again, but this time the aggressive posture was gone. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that we reconsider this entire operation. Kelthrin gestured to the holographic display. Look at what they have told us. They are not hiding their nature. They are showing us exactly what they are. Warriors, survivors, innovators, and they are saying quite clearly that they are prepared to fight. But they cannot fight us, the Threxian insisted. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. Today, yes. But how long does that advantage last once we make contact? Once they know we exist, they will dedicate their entire civilization to closing that gap. Look at their history. Every major technological leap has come from military necessity or competition. They went to their moon not for science, but to beat their rivals. They developed nuclear power to build better weapons. They created the computational networks they now use for commerce and communication as military technology. The Hyterian delegate bubbled through their translator. You are saying they would weaponize everything we show them. Kelthrin's eyes gleamed. I am saying they would weaponize everything we do not show them too. They would reverse engineer our technology. They would find weaknesses in our systems. And they would do it faster than any species we have encountered before, because that is what they are built for. Survival through conflict. Another delegate spoke up, a small furry creature from a peaceful trading world. Perhaps we are overthinking this. Perhaps we should simply communicate with them, offer them a place in galactic society as equals rather than subjects. The Threxian laughed, a harsh barking sound. Equals. They are barely past planetary stage. They would be decades behind even if we gave them all our technology. Why would the Dominion accept them as equals? Kelthrin clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Perhaps because the alternative is worse. The message that arrived at Earth 3 weeks later was not what anyone expected. Margaret Chen read it 5 times before she fully processed what she was seeing. They want to talk. She looked up at Daniel Rodriguez, who had rushed to Geneva when word of the response came through. No threats, no demands, no declarations of superiority. They want to establish diplomatic relations. Daniel frowned at the translated message on the screen. That easy. After all the preparation, all the fear, they just want to talk. Margaret highlighted a section of the message. Look at this part. They acknowledge our military capacity. They acknowledge our historical record. And then they say they believe it would be mutually beneficial to establish peaceful contact, so they are scared of us. Daniel sounded incredulous, not scared. Margaret smiled slightly. Careful. We made them careful. In orbit above Earth, Gregory Parker received new orders from Houston. Monitor for any unusual activity near the designated coordinates. Prepare to relay communications between Earth and the approaching vessel. The first official first contact mission in human history was about to begin. He floated to the observation window and looked out at Earth. Somewhere down there, people were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their world was about to change forever. Wars were still being fought. Politicians were still arguing. People were still falling in love, having children, pursuing their dreams. And soon, very soon, they would all learn that they were not alone. The Vexari diplomatic vessel arrived in Earth orbit 6 months later. It was smaller than the war fleet that had been originally planned, carrying only a skeleton crew of diplomats and scientists. Ambassador Kelthrin himself led the delegation. As his ship approached the blue planet, he reviewed the additional intelligence his people had gathered. Humanity had not been idle. In the months since the first exchange of messages, they had accelerated their military space program. New satellites were being launched weekly. Weapons platforms were under construction. Research into advanced propulsion and defensive systems had been prioritized across multiple nations. But more interesting than the military buildup was what else was happening. The humans had unified their space program. Nations that had been rivals for centuries were suddenly cooperating. Resources were being pooled. Information was being shared. The presence of an external threat had done what millennia of human philosophy and diplomacy had failed to achieve. Kelthrin's mandibles clicked in what might have been respect. The Galactic Council had been correct to reconsider. Humanity was indeed a species worth being careful with. The first meeting took place on neutral ground, aboard the International Space Station that humanity had hastily expanded to accommodate alien visitors. Margaret Chen led the human delegation. Ambassador Kelthrin represented the Galactic Council. Translators, both technological and biological, worked to bridge the communication gap. Kelthrin opened with traditional diplomatic pleasantries, but Margaret cut through them quickly. She had reviewed the data they had been provided about galactic politics. She understood what had almost happened. You were going to invade us. It was not a question. Kelthrin's translator hesitated, then rendered his clicking speech. That was the initial plan, yes. Earth was designated for integration into the Vexari Dominion. We believed you to be a primitive species requiring guidance. And now, Margaret kept her voice neutral, but her eyes were hard. Now we believe such an action would be unwise. The ambassador gestured with one of his 4 arms. Your message was quite educational. You showed us not just what humanity is, but what humanity could become if threatened. The Galactic Council prefers to avoid that scenario. Daniel Rodriguez, sitting beside Margaret, leaned forward. So you are here because you are afraid of us? No. Kelthrin's mandibles clicked firmly. We are here because we respect you. There is a difference. Fear makes enemies. Respect creates the possibility for allies. Margaret considered this. What are you proposing? The ambassador activated his own holographic display. A star map appeared showing thousands of inhabited systems. The Galactic Council represents 53 species across 2 spiral arms. We maintain peace through cooperation and mutual benefit. We would like to offer humanity associate membership. Associate, Daniel asked, not full membership. Full membership requires faster-than-light capability and establishment of at least one extrasolar colony. You currently have neither. Kelthrin manipulated the display. However, associate members receive technological assistance, access to certain trade routes, and protection under council law. We will also provide you with the scientific foundation for FTL travel. What you do with that information is up to you. Margaret exchanged a glance with her fellow delegates. What do you get out of this? The ambassador's compound eyes gleamed. Honestly, we get peace of mind. We get a developing civilization that views us as partners rather than enemies. And perhaps in time we get allies who bring unique perspectives and capabilities to the council. And if we refuse, then we leave you alone. Kelthrin gestured at the star map. The galaxy is vast. There is no shortage of space or resources. If humanity wishes to develop in isolation, that is your choice. The Council will respect that decision and designate this system as off-limits to all member species. Daniel frowned, just like that. No force, no coercion, just like that. The ambassador clicked his mandibles. You showed us what humanity is capable of. We have no desire to see what happens if we push you into a corner. History suggests the results would be catastrophic for both our peoples. The negotiations continued for 3 weeks. Teams of scientists, lawyers, and diplomats from both sides worked through the details. Treaties were drafted. Technology exchanges were outlined. Boundaries were established. Through it all, one truth became increasingly clear to both parties. Humanity had been marked as a target. One message had thrown the galaxy into hysteria. But that same message had also bought humanity something precious. A chance. A chance to join galactic civilization on their own terms. A chance to show that human innovation and determination could be used for more than just war. Gregory Parker watched from the observation lounge as the Vexari diplomatic vessel departed. The negotiations had concluded successfully. Humanity would join the Galactic Council as associate members. The scientific data on FTL travel was already being transmitted to research centers around the globe. But more importantly, humanity had sent a message to the galaxy. Not a message of aggression or hostility, but one of capability and determination. We are here, we are aware, and we will not be conquered. In council chambers across the galaxy, other species were taking notice. Priority Target 7 had become something else entirely. A wild card, an unknown variable, a species that had looked at overwhelming technological superiority and responded not with submission but with a simple statement. We are prepared, and the galaxy believed them. 5 years after first contact, the story was still being told in hushed tones in alien bars and council chambers across known space. The time the humans looked at a galactic superpower and made them blink. The time one message changed everything. But in human schools and universities, a different narrative was taking shape. The story of how humanity's violent history, the very thing that had nearly doomed them, had instead become their salvation. How showing their worst had paradoxically earned them respect. How honesty about their capacity for destruction had opened doors that diplomatic niceties never could have. Margaret Chen, now Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood before the United Nations General Assembly and reflected on those early days. We were afraid. Rightfully so. We faced the unknown with no guarantee of survival, but we chose to be honest about who we are. Not who we wish to be, not some sanitized version acceptable to alien sensibilities, but the full truth of human nature. She paused, letting her words sink in. Some have asked me if we should be proud of the violent history we revealed to the galaxy. My answer is that pride is not the point. Understanding is. We are a species shaped by conflict. Our greatest achievements have come from our darkest moments. Our capacity for creation is matched only by our capacity for destruction. And that is exactly why the Galactic Council decided to work with us rather than against us. The assembly hall was silent, every representative hanging on her words. We did not choose to be warriors. We did not choose to be survivors, but we are both. And now, we have the opportunity to choose what comes next. Will we continue to define ourselves by conflict, or will we use our hard-won strength for something greater? The galaxy is watching. And this time, they are watching with respect rather than contempt. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Kelthrin addressed his fellow delegates on a different matter entirely. The Zerath Confederation was threatening expansion into disputed territory. The Quillari Collective was facing a resource shortage. The Threxian Commonwealth was demanding renegotiation of trade agreements. Standard galactic politics, in other words. But now, whenever a species grew too aggressive or demands became unreasonable, Kelthrin had a new tool in his diplomatic arsenal. He would pull up a data file, a historical record of a small blue planet that had turned mutual destruction into an art form and somehow emerged stronger for it. And he would ask a simple question: do you really want to see what happens when humans get involved? The answer was always no, because the galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about humanity. They were not the strongest species. They were not the most advanced. They were not the oldest or the wisest, but they were the ones who had looked at their own capacity for violence, acknowledged it without flinching, and dared anyone to test whether they had the will to back it up. And the galaxy, collectively, had decided it was better to have humans as friends than to find out. Gregory Parker, now retired from active service, gave a lecture at the newly established Academy of Interstellar Studies. Young cadets, both human and a few brave alien exchange students, listened as he recounted those early days. The question I get asked most often, he said, is whether we got lucky, whether our bluff worked by chance rather than design. And my answer is always the same. It was not a bluff. He pulled up holographic displays showing Earth's continued military development, advanced propulsion systems, directed energy weapons, automated defense networks. Humanity had not relaxed after first contact. If anything, they had doubled down. We told the galaxy we were prepared. We meant it. We still mean it. Peace is always the first choice, but it is a choice we are capable of defending. That is the real lesson of first contact. Strength respected is strength that does not need to be used. A young alien student, a Quillari who communicated through carefully modulated resonances, asked a question through the translation system. Do humans really believe peace can only exist through the threat of violence? Gregory smiled. No, we believe peace exists when all parties choose it freely. But choice requires capability. If we could not defend ourselves, then peace would not be a choice. It would be surrender. The galaxy offered us associate membership not because we were helpless, but because we demonstrated we could be something else. That distinction matters. The lecture continued. But that exchange captured the fundamental shift in galactic politics that had occurred. Humanity had not changed the rules of engagement. They had simply reminded everyone what those rules were. Civilizations advance not just through technology, but through understanding. And the galaxy had come to understand that humanity possessed something unique. Not just the capacity for violence, which was common enough, but the willingness to acknowledge that capacity honestly while actively working to transcend it. 10 years after first contact, humanity achieved faster than light travel. The breakthrough came not from the data provided by the Galactic Council, but from human scientists building on that foundation and pushing it in directions the Council had never considered. The first human vessel to break the light barrier was named Resolution, a fitting choice. It carried a crew of 12, representing nations from across Earth, and its mission was simple: explore, learn, and remind the galaxy that humanity was no longer confined to a single world. Captain Lisa Monroe stood on the bridge as the ship prepared for its maiden voyage. The countdown echoed through the vessel. Engineers monitored every system. Diplomats prepared messages for any civilizations they might encounter. And back on Earth, Margaret Chen watched the launch with Ambassador Kelthrin at her side. Your people learn quickly, the Vexari ambassador clicked through his translator, faster than we anticipated. Margaret smiled. We had good motivation. You were planning to invade us after all. Kelthrin's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. That plan seems remarkably foolish in retrospect. It was. Margaret turned to face him directly, but thank you for reconsidering, for giving us the chance to prove we could be more than just warriors." The ambassador's compound eyes gleamed. "You proved that long before we arrived. You proved it when you sent us that message. Complete honesty is a rare thing in galactic politics. Most species try to hide their flaws. You showed us everything and dared us to do something about it. That took courage." "Or desperation," Margaret suggested. "Is there a difference?" Kelthrin asked. "Courage and desperation often look the same from the outside. What matters is what you do after. And humanity has been building rather than destroying, creating rather than conquering. That is why the Council is now discussing full membership for your species, years ahead of the normal timeline." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "I had not heard about that. The vote is scheduled for next cycle." Kelthrin gestured with one arm toward the viewing screen, where the resolution was accelerating toward the stars. "Your people have met every requirement. FTL capability. Extrasolar presence with your new colony on Kepler 442b. Demonstrated commitment to peaceful cooperation. The Threxians still oppose it, of course. They never fully trusted you, but they will be outvoted. And then humanity becomes a full voting member of the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." The ambassador paused, "and with access to the full archive of galactic history, including the parts we have not shared with associate members." Margaret frowned. "What parts?" "The parts about the species that came before, the ones that did not survive first contact, the ones that tried to conquer their way across the stars." Kelthrin's voice became somber. "The ones that became cautionary tales rather than success stories." "How many?" 17 over the past 3,000 years. Some destroyed themselves. Some were destroyed by the species they tried to subjugate. A few simply vanished into the void, pursuing expansion until they overextended and collapsed." The ambassador clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "When we first observed humanity, many on the council believed you would become number 18. But you changed your minds." Margaret said it as a statement, not a question. "Your message changed our minds." Kelthrin corrected. "By showing us your history unfiltered, you demonstrated something the council values above almost everything else: self-awareness. You know what you are. You know what you are capable of, both good and terrible, and you actively choose which path to take. That is why you will not be number 18. They watched in silence as the resolution engaged its FTL drive and vanished from sight, leaving only a brief distortion in space-time to mark its passage. Margaret finally spoke. "We were marked as the next target. One message threw the galaxy into hysteria, and now here we are, about to become full members of galactic civilization. It almost seems too easy." Kelthrin clicked his mandibles sharply. "Easy? You unified a divided world, accelerated your technological development by decades, and demonstrated the capability to defend yourselves against overwhelming odds, all while maintaining enough diplomatic composure to negotiate a peaceful resolution. If that is easy, I would hate to see what you consider difficult." "Fair point." Margaret smiled. "So what happens now?" "Now." The ambassador gestured toward the stars. "Now humanity joins the broader galactic community. You will face new challenges, new opportunities, new species to understand and work with. Some will become allies, some will become rivals, and all of them will know one fundamental truth about your kind, which is that when humanity says they are prepared, they mean it. That truth, established by a single message sent in desperation, will shape galactic politics for generations to come. You did not just save your species from subjugation. You changed the fundamental calculus of how civilizations interact with emerging species." Margaret considered this. "So Earth was marked as the next target. One message threw the galaxy into hysteria. And the end result is that we became partners instead of subjects." "Precisely." Kelthrin's eyes gleamed with what might have been respect. "Your species turned a moment of existential crisis into an opportunity for unprecedented advancement. That is why I believe humanity will thrive in galactic society. Not despite your capacity for conflict, but because you have learned to channel that capacity towards survival and growth rather than simple destruction." The observation lounge fell silent as both diplomat and ambassador contemplated the future. Earth rotated peacefully below them, a blue marble that had come so close to invasion, and had instead achieved equality through a combination of honesty, capability, and determination. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Resolution was beginning its exploration mission. Somewhere on Earth, children were learning about first contact in their history classes. Somewhere in the Galactic Council chambers, delegates were preparing to vote on humanity's full membership. And in that moment, humanity's future seemed brighter than anyone could have imagined when those first alien signals had been detected years ago. Earth had been marked as the next target. One message had thrown the galaxy into hysteria, but that same message had also announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage in a way that could not be ignored or dismissed. The humans were here. They were aware, and they were prepared. The galaxy would never be quite the same.